Alright, it's time to get the show on the road.
I'm gonna try, but I am covered in mosquito and fly bites.
Well,
And so, really all I can think about is how itchy I am.
that sounds like a personal problem. Because I also am covered in mosquito bites.
Bugs suck.
And bite.
They do. They suck and they bite.
Especially if they're mosquitoes.
I know. Ugh. Okay, well, I guess we're gonna do a podcast.
Yeah, we're recording a little early because we are leaving on vacation tomorrow. And we won't be here to record when we normally record.
And we didn't want to try to record in the hotel room.
And we didn't want to leave you a week without an episode.
I know you would be devastated.
So devastated.
And the story that I wanted to do needed way too much research, so luckily Sarah had some old show notes that we didn't, or, research notes that we haven't used.
We actually have used them.
We have?
But then we lost the episode, and
Oh.
There you go. So, this is something that I had written. We've already recorded, but it was like months ago. And so, you probably remember some of it, but probably not all of it. But that's okay, because I'm just complete transparency. I didn't even really read all of these notes again. So, we're going to kind of go on a journey together.
Groovy.
But what I did do, just to make sure that I was remembering the case, was I went back and I watched 48 Hours episode. I listened to the episode on the Dateline podcast. I listened to... I watched an A&E episode of this on killer cases. And I listened to a podcast called DNA ID. And another one that I can't remember. It was something about a husband and a wife. But, let's see. I don't want to do them dirty, so let me see what it was. Murder with My Husband. Alright, so... I'm just going to throw my phone at Farron. Totally okay.
Calm down there, ma'am.
Okay, so anyway, this is the case of the murder of Michelle Martinko.
Okay.
Alright. So, Michelle was born on October 6th, 1961 in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, to Albert and Janet Martinko. She's the youngest of two daughters. Her sister Janelle is 12 years older, and Michelle, on basically everything, is referred to as Albert and Janet's miracle baby, because she had her when she was 44 and had suffered 5 miscarriages before she was born. Michelle was diagnosed with scoliosis when she was 12, and she had to wear a brace that went from her neck to her hips for 2 years, and that made her pretty self-conscious. And
I can imagine.
She, tried her best not to be noticed because, kids are mean.
Kids are terrible. They're terrible people.
Yep. But then whenever she went to high school and she had her brace off, then she kind of started embracing, her fashion, and she had really long blonde hair, and so she was doing, the full Farrah Fawcett, and everybody remembered her as being very beautiful and very, very kind. Some of her friends talked about how because she knew what it was like to, be on the opposite side,
right.
Trying to make yourself invisible or just being invisible to other people or whatever, that she went out of her way to be nice to other people.
And, it either goes both ways. You either become very kind because you know what it's like, or you kind of hold a grudge against the world.
Right. Well, she seemed to be the nice one. She was on the twirling squad. She sang in the choir, and she performed in theater productions. She, all at Cedar Rapids Kennedy High School. She was an above average student. She was a senior in high school when she was murdered, But she had been planning to attend Iowa State University that fall to study interior design. Now, Wikipedia, and I know Wikipedia is not a reliable source, said that she didn't have many close friends because of jealousy over her looks and stylish clothes. Which I guess, high school is high school.
Yeah.
But she did have some pretty close friends from everything else that I like on the 48 Hours and Dateline. There were lots of people that talked kindly about her and said that they were friends with her. 48 Hours and I think on Dateline both mentioned that she attracted the attention of men, but she was like blissfully unaware of it. And when she was 15, she started dating a boy named Andy Seidel, who was 16, and they met when Michelle and her friend were roller skating. They dated for 2 years before breaking up because Michelle said that she didn't want to be in a serious relationship, and Andy didn't seem to take the breakup very well. He would, insist on knowing where she was. He would drive by her house all the time. He was always asking her friends who she was dating and just kind of being a little obsessive about it.
Yeah.
But then he went off to college because he was a year older than her, and she's a senior now. On December 19th, 1979, Michelle had attended a banquet for the Kennedy Concert Choir at the Sheridan Inn in Cedar Rapids. And again, she was a senior in high school. After the banquet, Michelle wanted to go to the Westdale Mall, which had just opened in October, so it was brand new. And it was Christmas shopping time. It was just a week before Christmas, so brand new mall. It was super busy. She asked her friend Jane to go, but Jane said that she needed to study and didn't want to go with her. So she decided to go by herself. And one of the reasons that she wanted to go to the mall was she was going to pay off a winter coat that her mom had put on layaway for her. And so she had $180 in her purse to pay for this coat. And she also was just doing mall stuff. She was hanging out with her friends. She was walking around shops. Now, Wikipedia and I would just like to say happy July 20th to everyone who observes the holiday.
Who's still shooting off fireworks.
Still shooting off fireworks out there. Okay, sorry, that distracted me. So Wikipedia and the DNA ID episode that I listened to both mentioned her having a part-time job at the mall. But on the A&E Killer Cases episode, her sister said that this was the first time that she was visiting the mall. So, I don't know. I'm inclined to believe her sister, who's lived with this for the last, 50 years. So, she also apparently bumped into her jealous ex-boyfriend, Andy, who was home for winter break. But he said that they were friendly, that he was there to buy her a Christmas present, and that he even told her he was there to buy her a Christmas present, and told her, don't follow me around because I need to find something to buy you, and that they kind of laughed and made plans to talk later.
Yeah.
The mall was closing at 10. Remember those days?
Yeah, when malls didn't close at 6 p.m.
Yeah. And she was last seen outside of a jewelry store at about 9. But I think, if I'm understanding what I learned on the Dateline episode, she ran into a boy named Kurt, who she went to school with, and sometime between 9 and 10, and he was on break from his job in a men's clothing store. And he said that they walked around and talked, and then he walked her to the exit, and then he went back to work. At about 2 a.m., when her parents realized that she wasn't home yet, and she had school the next day, and, she was a good kid, so they were worried, and so they called the police to report her missing, and the police were like, yeah, but she's a kid. You know how cops are. Yeah. And they're like, but she has a test tomorrow. Right. She should be at home. This is not like her. And they were like, whatever, she's a kid. So they called
And I just want to point out that I hate that attitude from cops.
I do too.
Especially when it's your own child and you know the personality of your child and you know that this is unlike them.
And even if the parents are overreacting and she is just off being a wild teenager or whatever, wouldn't it be better to, like, find her just off, like, drinking at the river or something than lose time?
That they could have been looking for her if something...
Yeah. If she was in danger or something. It's ridiculous. And especially, parents, they know their kids better than the cops do. It's stupid. So...
It's definitely an attitude that really needs to change and hasn't seemed to change much over time.
No.
And definitely is unfortunate that this still happens.
Yeah. Well, so her parents called Jane, remember the friend that had told her she couldn't go to the mall with her, and so she's asleep because it's like 2:00 in the morning. And she said on the Dateline episode that her parents came and woke her up and said, the Martinkos are on the phone. And she was like, I haven't seen her since we left the choir banquet. You know, she said she was going to go to the mall. And so then they, Bear just texted me and asked me what the noise was from earlier. I don't know why he doesn't recognize fireworks sounds, because
she does.
He loves explosives.
Mm-hmm. The dog definitely does.
Yeah.
She's currently having a panic attack over one firework.
Yep. So anyway, so I guess even at like 3:00, they called Andy Seidel's house and they were like, have you seen her? And he said no. And on the Dateline episode, they said that he and his mom got in the car and started looking for her. They called the police back and they were like, look, we've called people, we can't find her, she's still not home, you know, this is where she was last that everybody knows of, can you please go find her? And so they finally did, and at 4 a.m. the police found the Martinko family's tan and green 1972 Buick Electra parked in the northeast corner of the mall's parking lot near the JCPenney. Now, it was kind of far out in the parking lot, but again, this was a brand new mall, and it was Christmas shopping season, and so she probably just had to park far away because, you know, she got there so late.
It was crowded.
It was crowded. And so the police officer that was driving around and saw the car, he was like, okay, well, this is a car that matches the description. And he drove up and he said that he like opened the back seat first, I guess, and he saw a woman slumped over in the seat, and he thought, oh, like it's just somebody drunk and passed out, because I guess at the time they didn't tell them what they were looking for. They were just looking for the car.
Oh, okay.
But then he realized that it was a teenage girl who was very dead in the car.
Dead.
And so she was, like I said, inside the car. She had been stabbed 29 times in her face, neck, and chest.
That seems like a bit of overkill.
Very much so. And the cops were like, oh, this seems very personal as well, because it's in such close quarters. You know, it was like to her face, you know, and that always...
Well, plus a lot of the time, overkill is not just a random murder.
Right.
It usually... there's some emotion tied to it.
Exactly. So, due to the lack of blood outside of the car, it was determined that she had been killed after she was already inside the car, and the medical examiner put her death between 8 and 10 p.m., which basically means that as soon as she walked out of the mall and got in her car, she was killed.
Yeah.
And, like I said, her car was parked far away from the mall. It was well after dark. It's December in Iowa, so it's pretty dark outside. So it's believed that she walked out to her car. What's the matter?
I don't know. I keep feeling like it sounds like it's raining. Like, I know it's not, but...
It's probably just the water on my air conditioner.
Probably.
Okay, so... I lost my necklace. Oh yeah, it's just that water in my air conditioner. Okay, so anyway, the Police officers believe that she walked out to her car, got inside, and maybe turned on the car to warm it up for a minute before leaving, and that the killer opened the door, either forced her over into the passenger seat, or she slid over to, like, try to get away from him, and that's when she was attacked. She had so many defensive wounds on her hands, showing that she fought back really hard against whoever killed her. There were no fingerprints found, and so the police believe that the killer wore gloves. Yeah. And also, based on the impressions in some dirt on the outside of the car, like on the push button on the handle, it looked like those yellow dishwashing gloves that everybody has in their house. And so this gave credence to the idea that the killer went there with the intention of killing someone. And, because it was so personal, everybody believed that it was somebody who went there with the intention of killing Michelle. All right, so she still had cash in her purse, like that $180 was still there. And she had purchases in the bags, in bags in the back seat, and so they didn't believe that the motive was robbery. And they thought that possibly it could have been, like, motivated by, like, sexual assault, but she wasn't sexually assaulted.
Okay.
But, like, that could have been, like, the intention, but then she fought back so hard, and then, like, it just didn't go the way that it was supposed to, maybe. Yeah. And because she had run into her jealous ex-boyfriend, Andy, of course, they brought him in for questioning, and her family from the get-go thought that it was him because he had been so obsessive, like, after they had broken up.
Right.
And so they, his mom did give him an alibi saying that he was home, but they also were like, but alibis from your mom aren't always...
Right. There are plenty of moms who will say anything to keep their kid out of trouble.
Exactly.
Even if their kid totally did something.
Right. They also questioned basically any men or boys who had anything to do with Michelle at the time. They pulled that kid Kurt that she had talked to at the mall out of class, and asked him questions because he was the last person to see her, so he also was a suspect. She had another boyfriend that lived, like, he was away at college, like, 100 miles away, but even he was a suspect. Yeah. And then, like, Andy really, though, was, like, the only real suspect. And then he made himself seem even more suspicious at Michelle's funeral. He, like, was, like, basically, like, inside her casket, like, just making a spectacle. Like, he, like, had his arms around her and was, like, I don't know, bawling and squalling, and he kept asking, like, did she love me when she died? I have to know who she loved when she died. Did she love me or did she love Mike? And,
like, okay, calm down, guy.
Yeah, and so everybody was just kind of like, this guy's super weird. Also, I was like, why was the casket open if she had been stabbed in the face?
Right? I mean, I guess they can do things, but...
Yeah. But, I don't know. That just... Ugh. I don't like open caskets anyway.
No.
But that's...
They make me uncomfortable.
A personal preference, I guess. I don't know. So, even though most people thought that Andy was the killer, they didn't have any evidence that he did it. And he soon left to join the Navy. The blood, no, there was blood, like, basically all over the car because she'd been stabbed 29 times.
A bajillion times.
But they did take some scrapings of blood off of the gear shifter and her dress that, of course, it's 1979, so there's no DNA technology. But they typed it, and it was determined to belong to a man.
Okay.
But, like, other than that, they didn't have any other leads. Like, there was no... They asked questions of everybody who they thought, and they all thought, like, this is somebody... It has to be somebody that she knows. And, I mean, it went cold. They didn't have anybody. So police ruled out almost everybody that Michelle knew, and now they were considering that she had been killed by a stranger, but friends said that they hadn't noticed anyone paying any special attention to her at the mall.
Mm-hmm.
In June of 1980, police released a sketch of the killer based on hypnosis-induced description by 2 witnesses.
Uh-huh.
And it was a white man in his late teens or early 20s, about 6 feet, 165 to 175 pounds, with brown hair, or curly brown hair and brown eyes. And they offered a $10,000 reward. They even brought psychics in. But, I mean, that didn't bring about anything either.
Yeah.
And Michelle's parents died in 1995 and 1998, never knowing.
Yeah.
And
which is unfortunate.
And they went to their graves, like, fully believing that Andy had killed her.
Mm-hmm.
In 2006, which was 27 years after Michelle was killed, Detective Doug Larison, who had actually gone to high school with Michelle, was reviewing her case file and found the blood evidence. And I just want to say that, you know, we covered Phoebe Handstruck a couple of weeks ago, where the police just didn't care at all about evidence or anything. They didn't collect evidence. They didn't do anything. These people, who did not even have DNA technology, preserved this evidence. Like, they, like, collected all of the evidence that they could, and they preserved it for all of these years, to the point that, like, now we're in 2006 where there is DNA technology, and this guy was like, we have blood evidence.
Yeah.
And so he sent it out for DNA testing.
They, you know, did their job.
Exactly. And it's sad when that seems to be, like, not the norm. when things are done correctly. But anyway, so they sent the blood evidence out for DNA testing, and they received a sequence that reported fewer than 1 in 1 billion people would match the sequence. And so it was basically like a complete genetic sequence of somebody. But they ran it through CODIS, which is like the national DNA database, and there were no hits. So they were like bummed because, like, they thought this was like their golden ticket or whatever. So they also swabbed all of the suspects that they originally had. So they called Andy up and they were like, hey, can you provide us with DNA? And I guess he might have been a little hesitant at first, but he was like, you keep saying it's not you. It's not going to match this DNA sequence if it's not you. And so, and then, you know, if it doesn't match, then you're 100% cleared.
Yeah.
And so he went ahead and he did submit his DNA, and it did not match. And Kurt, I guess, like, refused to submit his DNA. And so the cops were like, oh, well, obviously you're our killer, because he wouldn't give their DNA.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, like, that's not suspicious or anything.
But I guess his wife was a judge, and she told him not to without a warrant. And so I guess they finally, like, went back and forth between his lawyer and the police, and he finally submitted his DNA for testing, and it was not a match. They even tested her brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Like, they tested every man that had any connection to her.
Yeah, every known man in her life.
Exactly. And none of the DNA matched the sequence that they found in her car. Then, Doug Larison, the detective that did this, he was, in 2015, maybe even before that, was just like, you know, I've been working on this case so long, and I'm burnt out, and I think you need to assign somebody new to this case that has fresh eyes. Yeah. And so Matt Dinlinger took over, and he was actually the son of one of the original detectives from the case. And so he wanted to solve this, like, for his dad, if
Right.
nothing else. He was like, I want to do something, like, finish this for my dad. And so he, I guess, his wife got a, like a ancestry kit or something for Christmas. And she was like, why couldn't you do that with your Michelle Martinko DNA stuff?
Yeah.
And he was like, why can't we? And so he called this place Parabon Nanolabs. And, oh, you know what? I got ahead of myself. So he contacted Parabon first to find out if they could give him more specific information about the DNA profile.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, you know what? We can draw you a picture based on this and tell you what this person probably looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And so the lab made what they called a snapshot. And so this was a white male with blonde hair and blue eyes. They created a picture, like pictures with various hairstyles and different ages, and the police department released them to the public. And they thought, you know what, this is going to be great because hopefully we get like 100 people call all saying this looks like this guy. And he said they ended up getting like 200 people saying that it looked like 100 different guys.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, okay, that didn't work. And so in 2018, they were like, I guess, I don't know, there were a couple of different stories about this, and from the same people giving various stories about this. One of them said that Parabon reached out to the police department and said, hey, guess what we just did? And then the other story was that the detective's wife was like, hey, I've got this ancestry DNA.
Mm-hmm.
You know, could you do the same thing?
Yeah.
Well, at the exact same time, Parabon had just used their ancestry DNA to find the Golden State Killer.
Okay.
And because they had used genetic genealogy to do that.
Yeah.
And so they found, or they put it into, I'm all over the place, sorry. I'm going to start that over again. So they used the same sample that they used to create the snapshot. And they searched in a national database called GED Match.
Okay.
And they found a woman in Washington State named Brandy Jennings who was a familial match. It was like a second cousin once removed or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so they got in touch with her and they were like, hey, your DNA matches a potential killer in a case, like a cold case from like 30, 40 years ago. And she was like, that's crazy. I don't know anybody in that area, but okay. And so they worked with her to start building her family tree. And they traced it back to her great-great-grandparents. And then they were like, okay, well, they took, I guess they got DNA from like a couple of different branches from her family tree. And they sent those DNA samples into Parabon.
Mm-hmm.
And Parabon was like, okay, these don't have any familial match to your killer, so you can eliminate those branches of the family tree. And so then they found another one, and they said, okay, yes, this is this one that like is like a first cousin to whoever your killer is. Like, that's how close I was. And so this woman was in Iowa somewhere, but not in Cedar Rapids. And so they found out that she was first cousins with 3 brothers who had grown up in Manchester, Iowa, which was like 20 minutes away from Cedar Rapids.
Right.
And like, to me, like, this whole thing is like science fiction, that they can even do these things. Like, that they can say, okay, well, you know, even just that they can say that this is like their first cousin. Like, looking at the DNA, it's just so crazy. So they put the 3 brothers under surveillance. They were all 3 still alive. And were going to attempt to collect their DNA covertly. And the 3 brothers' names were Donald, Kenneth, and Jerry Burns.
Okay.
So they followed, I think Kenneth was the first one, maybe. I didn't write their names down in here, but one of them, they followed to a restaurant at like a golf club, like a country club or something, and watched him eat. And then after he left, they grabbed his straw, sent his straw, like, DNA off to the lab, and they said, nope, that's not him. So they eliminated one of the brothers. Then they put the other brother under surveillance. They were like, was waiting outside of his house, and he pulled his trash can down to the street. And so they took his trash bag out, and they took like a cup and a discarded toothbrush, and they tested those, and they said, nope, this is not that brother.
Strike 2.
Right. So that left Jerry. And so they did the same thing. They followed him around. He went to a pizza restaurant, and they sat there and they watched him eat, and he also had drank out of a straw. So after he left, they took his straw, and his DNA was an exact match to the DNA profile that they had. They were like, it's like 1 in 100 billion or something that would match this. So, like, there's no way that this is somebody else. It has to be this guy. Additionally, his picture from 1979 looked very similar to Parabon's snapshot that was created. And, but they were like, this guy doesn't have any connection to Michelle Martinko. He had no criminal record. He was a respected businessman. He had a wife and 3 kids. Like, he just seemed to live. I don't know, I think he owned like a powder coating business or something. And his brothers were also entrepreneurs. And they just seemed like very normal people. And it was just super weird because they were like, this, I don't know how this is his DNA. So on December 19th, 2018, which was 39 years to the day after Michelle was murdered, police went to Manchester, Iowa to Jerry's business to interview him. And they had like a hidden camera and microphone and a coffee cup that they took inside with them. So you can watch like this whole encounter online. And he said that he wouldn't give them his DNA, but they had a warrant already to get it. So they took his DNA. And during the interview, they were just like, you know, why would your DNA have been in Michelle's car? And he was like, I don't know. I wasn't there. But the whole time he's like super just like chill.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like, just test the DNA. Like, he said just test the DNA like 1,000 times. And they were like, well, fun fact, we already tested your DNA. And
it was you.
It matched, and it's you, and, like, what? Just tell us why you did this. And he was just like, I don't know, I wasn't there. And then, so they went ahead and arrested him. And, like, just based solely on the DNA evidence and charged him with first-degree murder. And during the interview, Jerry did admit to having visited the Westdale Mall with his family, but he couldn't recall being there that day. And, you know, I'm like, that's fair, because I don't know what day I visited a mall, especially not 40 years later.
Exactly.
But another thing I thought about, and I had even written this down in my original notes, was like, I feel like if I had gone to a mall one day and that night a little girl was brutally murdered in the parking lot, I would probably remember for the rest of my life, oh my God, I was there that day that happened.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was kind of like, if you were there, you'd probably remember that you were at the mall that day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody who went to that mall probably remembers that they had gone to the mall that day.
Yeah.
When...
It's a hard thing to forget.
No kidding. When he was in the police car, the detectives asked him if it's possible that he blocked out the memory, and Jerry says, I'm sure something like that would be possible to block out. You block things out of your memories.
Mm-hmm.
Like, conveniently, I guess.
I guess so.
During pretrial hearings, it came out that investigators had searched Burns' laptop in 2018, and he had and they had found that he had regularly visited sites depicting blonde women being raped, stabbed, and strangled.
Groovy.
And his search history was like blonde woman strangled and all of these like disgusting
all these
things.
creepy, horrible things.
But the judge deemed that inadmissible because the searches happened for decades after the murder.
Right.
And so they were like, this, isn't relevant to the time.
But, I mean, clearly he's got an interest in...
Exactly. During the trial, prosecution brought in a former cellmate of Jerry's named Michael Allison, and he said that he asked Jerry if he had killed Michelle, and that Jerry had responded that they couldn't talk about it. He also said that while they were playing a game, Allison kept winning, and Jerry told him that if he kept beating him, he was going to, quote, take him to the mall.
All right.
Which, even if he didn't do that, it was distasteful.
Tacky.
He also autographed a newspaper of him, like a picture of himself in court or something about all of this.
Yeah.
Which was weird.
He seems like a stand-up guy.
He also, I guess, told this guy that no matter how the trial turned out, he feels like he won because he got to spend 40 years, like, with his family. Yeah. So, defense only called one witness, a self-described forensic DNA consultant, which, me too.
Yeah.
Who said the police mishandled the DNA evidence because they had put her dress and her tights and her panties all in the same bag.
Mm-hmm.
And that Burns's DNA also could have been in Michelle's car and on her dress by secondary transfer. Like when you brush up against somebody or you touch something that somebody else touched. Yeah. And I'm like, but probably not.
But doubt it.
And how would her dress and her pantyhose and her panties all being in the same bag matter? Like, that doesn't change the DNA.
Right.
Like, nothing changes your DNA. So, even Donald Burns, which was one of Jerry's brothers, is, like, convinced that his brother could not have committed this murder. And tried to say that Jerry had worked in a Buick dealership, and that was probably how his DNA had ended up on her gear shift.
Oh,
because if that car had ever gone through the dealership where he worked, he probably would have touched it.
Oh, okay.
The car was 7 years old.
Uh-huh.
And how would that explain his DNA being on her dress? So that doesn't make any sense.
Not really.
During closing arguments, Burns' defense attorney gave this quote. This is a man named Leon Spies. The state's scenario here is that Jerry Burns, a married man with 2 young children at home, drives to Cedar Rapids, Iowa in the night, leaving his wife and children behind, armed with a knife, armed with rubber gloves, goes to Westdale Mall on the chance that he's going to encounter Michelle Martinko, decides to kill her, and then leaves and drives back home, splattered with blood, presumably with a knife wound in his hand. That's the scenario the government wants you to believe. And it's just like, well, thank you for telling us exactly what happened.
Right.
He also had, I guess, a bunch of scars on his hands that people were like, well, that's probably from when she was fighting him.
Exactly.
So I don't personally believe that story is far-fetched.
Mm-hmm.
He could have seen her before and chosen to kill her, or he could have seen her in the parking lot and decided to attack her based on his web search type.
Mm-hmm.
there are so many convicted murderers out there who are living double lives.
Right.
Like BTK.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, his family was not suspicious of his crimes, and he went decades
Right.
murdering people. John Wayne Gacy was a politician and a local businessman.
Mm-hmm.
He was like the pillar of the community. So none of that is far-fetched.
No.
But it's all they had. So on February 24th, 2020, after only 3 hours of deliberation, Jerry Burns was found guilty for the first-degree murder of Michelle Martinko. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He appeared in September of 2020. Oh, he appealed in... Wow, I wrote that really weird and autocorrect did not fix it. Mm-hmm. It says he appealed.
He appealed.
He appealed in September of 2020, but in March 23, the Supreme Court denied the appeal and upheld his original conviction. I did see another story from CBS from 2023, I think, mm-hmm. where part of his appeal was on the grounds that the police didn't have any business taking his straw.
Okay.
Because he should have, we literally just talked about this the other day, like a reasonable right to privacy mm-hmm. or something. And they were just like, but it was trash.
Yeah.
Like, you left it. You discarded it. It's no longer yours. And they were like, how would that be any different than us taking a glass for fingerprints? Mm. And, and fingerprints. And he was like, well, DNA can't be seen. So, like, you had to, like, do this testing to find it. And they were like, fingerprints can't be seen either. And we still dust for fingerprints. And so that was a stupid thing to try to appeal on. And so, obviously, that didn't work. On the 48 Hours episode, they asked the detectives if they believed if there were more crimes out there committed by Jerry Burns, and they said probably, but they didn't have any evidence of them, because it would be weird for him to just randomly commit this one, like, really violent murder and then never commit another one. Mm-hmm. And during the interview, Jerry had made a weird offhand comment, like, I had just seen something about Jody Husentrut recently, and Jody Husentrut was a blonde news anchor who was abducted near her car in a parking lot in Mason City, Iowa in 1995 and has never been found. And that's about 2 hours from where Burns lived.
Yeah.
There is no evidence that ties him to that case, but it was weird that he, like, just randomly brought it up. Mm-hmm. And it's also weird because just the other day, I saw an ad for a documentary about her disappearance.
Yeah.
And I was, like, thinking to myself, we covered a case where somebody was suspected of her disappearance, but I couldn't remember what it was. And then I started listening to podcasts about this one again, and I was like, oh, right, it was this guy.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. If he is connected to any other crimes, his DNA wasn't matched to any of their crimes. So, who knows? But he's in prison. His daughter and his brother are, like, adamant that he was not there and he did not do it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know why else his blood would have been on her dress.
Exactly.
So, anyway, that is the horrible story of Michelle Martinko's murder.
Maybe we won't lose it this time.
Perhaps not. I hope not.
Me too.
I'll try to back it up as soon as we finish.
Alright.
Well, when you're listening to this, I might be floating down a lazy river.
Yes.
Or I might be sitting at the beach.
Possibly.
And Farron will be picking up seashells.
Love a good seashell.
And Bear will be digging a hole.
Mm-hmm.
Just kidding. I'm not letting him ever dig a hole in the beach again. Did you see the story about the little kids digging the hole in Florida? and it ended up, like, opening up wider and, like, swallowing them. And the mom's, like, screaming for help, and they finally, like, got the little kids out, but the little girl died.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But no, I've always heard, or I've started hearing recently, not since that happened, since before that happened, that you're not supposed to dig holes like that at the beach. That they're not good for the beach landscape anyway.
Yeah, and I saw a skit the other day where they were saying not to do it because, like, people can trip in them because they don't go back flat whenever you throw them in, and so
it's not the best idea anyway.
Yeah, so he will not be digging a big hole, but that's what he'll be wanting to do.
He can build a sandcastle, and he can pick up seashells, and...
Yes. And he can jump over waves.
Yes.
Anyway, so that is all. Is that all for you?
I think so. It was a short, sweet, concise little episode this week.
Yep. And now I have to pack. And I hate packing.
When I have to pack, I literally would rather do anything else than pack.
Mm-hmm.
I often pack either right before I go to bed or, like, first thing in the morning because I hate packing so much that I leave it until the literal last minute.
Yeah, packing is is something that immediately activates my executive dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
I will get the suitcase and I will open it and I will sit in front of it and then I will stare at it for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like literally just sitting there doing absolutely nothing.
I think the dryer stopped.
Nice, so we can pack. So anyway, I'm going to attempt to pack.
Yes.
And then get up in the morning and do some driving.
So much driving.
And we will tell you about our vacation when we come back.
Yeah.
And so we will see you next week. Remember that we are on social media at Twisted and Mysterious, or you can email us at twistedandmysteriousPodcast@gmail.com. I feel like, was there anything else? We don't say anything else, right?
Not really.
You could rate and review.
You can rate and review. You can always download our podcast. We appreciate that when you do it. Share our podcast with all of your friends and family. And
I think that, like, for sure, like, Apple's really big on the rating and reviewing. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please do that. But you can on Spotify too, but I can't remember if you can only do it if you're on your computer, if you can only do it when you're on mobile. I don't remember which one it is, but there's one of those options. So
yeah,
if you have the option, please do that.
But we would appreciate that, and we would appreciate hearing from you guys, especially if you have any stories or story ideas. And I think that's really it. So, as always, remember that people are gross and don't get murdered.
And let somebody walk you out to the car if you're far, far away from the building.
I think that just kind of goes under don't get murdered.
Yeah. I mean, it was not her fault at all.
No.
No one should murder you for walking to your car.
No, you should be allowed to walk to your car on your own.
Yes. But
you shouldn't have to have company walking to your car.
You shouldn't have to. But if you feel unsafe, ask somebody to walk you to your car. Or ask a security guard to walk you to your car.
Yes.
Okay. That is all. See you next week.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.